Good evening, everyone, and thank you for your patience. We had a closed session beforehand that ran a little over. Welcome to the Brisbane City Council meeting of July 20th, 2017. And we'll start out with a report out from the closed session.
The council had three matters on for tonight. One of them having to do with a liability claims from a FANU Clarissa, and the council adopted unanimously to reject that claim. And there was also a conference with the real property negotiator, the city manager, regarding the price and terms of a payment for potential sale of city-owned property, housing authority-owned property, and the council provided direction on that. There's also a closed session regarding employee performance evaluation concerning the city attorney, and the council has continued that item to the 27th of July.
Thank you. Moving on, let's call the meeting to order, and we'll start off with a Pledge of Allegiance. If you could please rise.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Please note for the record that all council members are present and all board members from the Brisbane Public Financing Authority and the Brisbane Guadalupe Valley Municipal Improvement District Public Financing Authority is present.
Thank you. Item 4, adoption of agenda. Any changes?
Yeah, Madam Mayor, under new business, could we move item E up in front of, after the consent calendar, before the public hearing, which is the approval of funding for dog park resurfacing?
Okay.
E.
That's item E under new business. So we'll move up the dog park. And my apologies. Where would you like to place that?
Right after the consent calendar.
After the consent calendar.
And
Okay.
With that, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with that amendment.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Moving on, we have oral communications number 1. I have 2 slips. Start off with Dana Dilworth.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. On the way the council agenda is posted, it didn't mention that the Housing Authority or successor agency was meeting in the closed session, and so I was a little concerned about whether it would be admitted that the closed session item was respective to Brisbane Housing Authority, and just kind of wonder out loud who's being negotiated with and under what terms, because this is land that was bought under redevelopment agency money authority and should be wholly for low and moderate income housing. And if there's any other thing going on, would stand here and state that I'm in an objection to that. That's the extent of my oral communications. I am on a disability right now, and I probably should be home under ice, and was wondering if I could have a minute or two to mention what I would say on other items on the calendar, consent calendar I, and new business A and G. I will be brief.
Sure.
Thank you. Regarding Dr. Lee's contract on consent calendar I noticed that you're being gentle in stating that about making the connection whether the proposed mitigation measures to the draft EIR are adequate. And so I do understand that you're looking at 3 different plans for the area, but there isn't any language in there about stormwater surge, liquefaction, and sea level rise, and would like that to be considered part of what you're expecting. Regarding the new business soil tax, I have information about my concern about it just being the environmental impacts, not of a tax, but of the use that had created that ability to have the tax. And regarding electronic billboards, I just want it to be known that this is adjacent to a Caltrans mitigated wetland, and that there is a lot of information about the digital billboards creating blight, creating safety problems, creating problems with night blindness. And I contacted Audubon, and their first response was, ugh. So anyway, I would like to refer you to Scenic America and the information about mitigation measures that Belmont needed to do at least an initial study, and other issues related to digital billboards and environmental impacts. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay. Next, we have Michelle Dietzer, and it does say this is on something that I believe is on the agenda. So usually we have those people speak during that item. Will you be available at that time? Okay. Thank you. And is there anyone else who'd like to speak tonight on an item that is not on the agenda? Okay, wasn't sure if he was walking forward. Okay, seeing no hands, we'll move on. Okay, next is proclamation. Item A, declaring July as Parks and Recreation Month. So I have a proclamation here that I will read. Designation of July as Park and Recreation Month. Whereas parks and recreation programs are an integral part of the communities throughout this country, including the city of Brisbane, and whereas our parks and recreation are vitally important to establishing and maintaining the quality of life in our communities, ensuring the health of all citizens and contributing to the economic and environmental well-being of a community and region. And whereas parks and recreation programs build healthy, active communities that aid in the prevention of chronic disease, provide therapeutic recreation services for those who are mentally or physically disabled, and also improve the mental and emotional health of all citizens. And whereas parks and recreation programs increase a community's economic prosperity through increased property values, expansion of the local tax base, increased tourism, and the attraction of and retention of businesses and crime reduction. And whereas parks and recreation areas are fundamental to the environmental well-being of our community, and whereas parks and natural recreation areas improve water quality, protect groundwater, prevent flooding, improve the quality of the air we breathe, provide vegetative buffers to development, and produce habitat for wildlife. And whereas our parks and natural recreation areas ensure the ecological beauty of our community and provide a place for children and adults to connect with nature and recreate outdoors. And whereas the U.S. House of Representatives has designated July as Parks and Recreation Month, and whereas the City of Brisbane recognizes the benefits derived from parks and recreation resources, now therefore be it resolved by the Brisbane City Council that July is recognized as Parks and Recreation Month in the City of Brisbane, dated this 20th of July. Thank you. So, and now I'd like to call up Kevin Fryer from the Parks and Recreation Commission. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. What you read on that proclamation really does sum up the kinds of things that I might say about how Parks and Rec is integral to the health of the fabric of our community. It says it very well. I would just say that here in Brisbane, we really have a wonderful commission that takes this responsibility very seriously. You actually have 3 items on your agenda tonight. But more importantly, Brisbane has a really, really wonderful Parks and Rec staff. So I really want to give a shout out to the staff that works really hard with us as commissioners and with the community to bring these really important services to our community. So thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you for serving.
Great. Okay. And moving on to presentations, item A, receive information on the County of San Mateo Office of Sustainability's Home for All program. Jessica Stanville-Mullen.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Mr. Vice Mayor, and honorable members of the City Council. My name is Jessica Stanfield-Mullen. I'm with the San Mateo County Office of Sustainability. I'm joined here tonight by Peggy Jensen, one of our Deputy County Managers, and we want to thank you for the invitation to provide a briefing on the Home for All initiative and the work of the Closing the Jobs Housing Gap Task Force. So before I talk about the Jobs Housing Gap Task Force and our initiative, I'd like to share some information about the current housing crisis that we're experiencing here in San Mateo County. Between 2010 and 2015, the county added approximately 72,000 new jobs, while only adding approximately 3,800 units of housing. So for every 1 unit of housing built, we added 19 new jobs. Additionally, in San Mateo County, we value our protected open space in agriculture. 75% of the land in San Mateo County is protected open space or ag, while only 25% is developed land. So we need to think very creatively about the land that we have available to provide additional new housing. Additionally, if we look at that developed land, of our current housing stock, 2/3 of that is single-family homes. So we also have to think of innovative solutions to utilize that existing housing stock to be able to provide housing options for everybody in our community. Also, I think everyone is well aware of the significant increases in housing prices and costs that we've experienced over the last several years. For sale home prices and condos have seen a significant increase, as well as rents for a 2-bedroom and a 1-bedroom. And one of the impacts of our jobs housing gap imbalance is the increase in congestion of our approximately 340,000 jobs that we have in San Mateo County. Close to 2/3 of our workforce are commuting from outside of San Mateo County. And while the blue, orange, and brown pie wedges represent the workforce coming in from our neighboring counties of San Francisco, Santa Clara, and Alameda, I'd like to call out that purple pie wedge where we have 77,000 employees coming from communities beyond that. So they're either coming from the North Bay, the Central Valley, or up the coast to come work in San Mateo County. We also know that the jobs housing gap imbalance has had an impact in terms of recruitment and retention on our businesses, whether they're large or small. The Silicon Valley Leadership Group does an annual CEO business climate survey, and housing, the cost of housing has been identified as the #1 business challenge for the past 4 years. Additionally, the Bay Area Council does an annual poll, and this year they found that 40% of poll respondents said that they were likely to leave the Bay Area in the next few years due to the high cost of housing and cost of living here in the Bay Area. So because of that, the San Mateo County Board of Supervisors wanted to look to see what we could do here in San Mateo County to address this imbalance. In March of 2015, they held a study session. They looked at the 29 different policies and programs they either had enacted or would be moving forward, and they also looked at how much they were investing. Since 2012, they've invested over approximately $64 million, with a significant portion of that going towards housing development for affordable housing. But even though they have their own policies and programs in place, they felt that we could do more. So they convened the Closing the Jobs Housing Gap Task Force in September of 2015. I'd like to thank Councilmember Lentz. He served as the representative from Brisbane and attended all of our very early morning meetings. So we appreciate his presence there. The task force was co-chaired by Supervisors Horsley and Slocum. It had representatives from each of our 20 different councils in cities and towns throughout the county. Had representatives also from our large and small employers and business groups, the educational community, for-profit and nonprofit developers, community-based organizations that provide housing services or advocate on behalf of housing, as well as labor organizations. The task force met from September of 2016 through June of 2016. And what they did is they identified the challenges that either their communities or organizations were facing due to this housing crisis. And then they looked at a wide range of options that we felt that each community could consider in moving forward to address this issue. These options range from what we could do in our low-density residential neighborhoods, things like second units or shared housing, what we could do in the high density along the transit corridors and in our downtowns, ways in which we could add additional affordable funding for affordable housing, looking at the continuum of housing needs, things like homelessness, preservation, and displacement, and then coming up with creative strategies for community engagement. And from the task force, we had 4 key outcomes. They developed an action plan, which I'll explain later. We have our Home for All website, which really serves as an online community resource center. It has the toolkit that the task force developed, as well as tracks current progress that each jurisdiction is doing in terms of policies and housing that's being developed, and identifies ways in which residents who are interested in housing can get more involved. We've also launched our public relations and education campaign to talk more about the impacts of the jobs housing gap imbalance and things that we could do here locally. And then we've expanded and continue to work on our partnerships and community engagement. And rather than just producing a white paper, the task force asked that the county continue this effort and really build on the momentum that the task force had established. And so they've asked us to launch the Home for All initiative. So the initiative was launched this past fall with the mission to establish a climate in San Mateo County where there is a diversity of housing that is produced and preserved, where there is a future where everyone in San Mateo County has an affordable home so that we can remain culturally, generationally, and an economically diverse community with housing for all. So from that, we have a structure that really is working towards meeting those major challenges identified by the task force, which is really looking at what we can do around the availability of land, what we can do around funding for housing, and what we could do about community engagement. So from that, we have our steering council, which provides overall direction for this initiative, but we also have 4 key work groups that are, again, addressing those 3 major challenges that I just identified. They're outreach and education, funding, legislation and policy, and mobility. And our work group is really expanding on the action plan that was developed by the task force and looking at additional resources and best practices that we could share with our community members so that they consider working on these things in their individual jurisdictions. So the action plan is developed into 4 key areas. The first is building partnerships and community support. We're asking each of the jurisdictions to consider passing our Home for All resolution. We're doing a number of stakeholder convenings and really continuing that business outreach. The second is funding for affordable housing. How do we make HEART, which is our Housing Endowment and Regional Trust, more dynamic and robust? The conversations at the task force inspired the Board of Supervisors to consider expanding Measure A, which was the Measure K ballot measure that was passed in November. And from that ballot measure, we'll have $40 million in affordable housing being devoted to affordable housing projects over the next 2 years. We're also looking at a regional RENA shared housing credit legislation. And we also launched the Affordable Rental Housing Preservation Fund last summer with $10 million. The third area is supporting all types of housing development. As I mentioned before, we have our Home for All website. This fall, we're looking forward to launching our online second unit center for residents who are maybe interested in doing a second unit, wanting to learn more about the process, what their options are. We'll have an online resource center for them. And then this summer, we are launching our Facilitate Community Meetings pilot project, where we're really trying to look at innovative ways in which we can engage the community around discussions around housing, whether it's online, it's smaller community discussions, could be really innovative, and sort of thinking outside the box about how we do that. And the last area is securing land and strengthening our community infrastructure, conducting an analysis of available public land to see what our options are in terms of developing housing for the region, looking at ways in which we can enhance our transit options, and then promoting water efficient development. So some of the work that we've done today, again, we've been doing a lot of outreach with our city councils, our faith community, foundations, environmental groups, school districts, and the business community. We've launched our website. We also have brochures and talking points, and we're continuing to build out our robust framework for messaging as well. So what we're asking for each of the jurisdictions to consider is our Home for All resolution. We currently have 15 jurisdictions that have adopted the resolution. Additionally, we also have the County of San Mateo and CCAG that have adopted this resolution as well. And what the resolution just asks is that the City of Brisbane would commit to continue to work with the other jurisdictions in the county to address the housing crisis on a regional basis through ongoing support of the Home for All County initiative. So that concludes my presentation. We just want to say, again, thank you for allowing us to come and present on the work that we've been doing. Thank you to Councilmember Lentz for his work on the task force. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Jessica. Any questions, Clark?
Thank you for your presentation. On the affordable part, because the way housing prices have just gone through the roof, and that's rentals, and I understand that currently the average price for a one-bedroom rental in San Mateo County is like $2,700.
So for a two-bedroom, it's over $3,000, and for a one-bedroom, it's $2,600 a month.
Oh, okay. So you said the goal is to provide affordable housing. Is there a number that you have in mind of what that means? Because I don't really know, because I'd seen this moving target, like 40 years ago to buy an affordable home was like, $50,000, $60,000. But, it's way, I don't know what it means nowadays, because it's almost like a joke. And I know that Governor Brown had knocked out money from his budget because said just to build what is termed affordable for purchase is like $304,000. That's just statewide, not here. So, do you have an idea?
So we do. What's considered affordable housing costs per family household would be around a third of your household income would be spent on housing. What we're seeing now is that number is creeping over 50%. For a lot of the individuals, and for some of our lower income families, it's even higher than that. So what we really want to do is be able to provide enough units as possible to bring down those prices and make things affordable. What I can tell you is when we first looked at the data in terms of how many housing units we had versus jobs, that ratio was actually 26 to 1. And in the past year, it's dropped down to 19 to 1 because we have been adding more housing units throughout the county. Redwood City has done a significant production in units, so has some of our other jurisdictions. So we know that the more units that are coming on helps sort of bring down that ratio. And for the subsidized costs for affordable housing, the board is committing significant money from Measure K to help build a number of those units that we have in the pipeline. Peggy, do you have any more you would like to talk about that? Peggy Jensen has more.
Well, okay, before she jumps, when you talked about the jobs, is there a specific type of jobs or every job? I mean, if we're talking like,
it's all types of jobs.
Minimum wage jobs? So minimum wage, less than $15 an hour, that's less than, less than $30,000 a year for a single person, or if it's a family, so you're like very, very, very low income in a sense. This is because in San Mateo County right now, it's $105,000 for a family of four is low income. Okay, so
we have a challenge.
Okay.
Would you like more information about the pipeline that we have for affordable housing?
Yeah, that's fine.
Just very quickly, when Jessica talked about the county investment in housing, both homelessness and preservation and housing development, it was $63 million until the end of this past fiscal year. We added another $40 million to that amount in the budget that we've just adopted. Actually, $43 million. Of that, 40 will be used for the development of new affordable housing and the preservation of existing housing units. we came about that number, the board adopted that number because our Department of Housing looked at what's in the pipeline, what projects are being developed by affordable housing developers. And we've got 600 units that we feel will be shovel-ready within the next 2 years, and another 800 units that will start the entitlement process through our funding to get the pre-development work going. So that's 1,400 units over the next 2 years.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? No?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Jessica, for the presentation. So you provided a pretty long list of cities that have adopted the resolution. There was Brisbane. I mean, I didn't count all the cities, but are there any other cities besides Brisbane that have not adopted?
So we have, in addition to Brisbane, we do have about 4 other cities. So it'd be Foster City, Millbrae, Atherton, and Woodside. And we're continuing to reach out to them to also consider the resolution. The goal, it would be great if we could have all 20 cities, particularly since all 20 cities participated in the task force.
Does it usually help after you've given a presentation that then that council adopts the resolution?
Typically, yes.
Okay, good. You know, in one of your slides, you talked about one of the things that you're going to do is the public land analysis. So I'm on the HART board, and we recently spent some money a couple years ago doing such. Could you use that data, or?
Yes, we would use that data and also build out to see what we could do. I know that school districts, many of the school districts, I should say, throughout the county are looking at their surplus land and seeing what options that they have. So we try to build out a robust report on that.
That's great. You know, one of the things that we're doing as a city in our planning commission is conducting hearings right now. We have an area we call the Parkside Precise Plan. And so we're looking at a 25-acre area. We're going to try and do a zoning overlay for about 240 units.
228.
Yeah, 228.
About.
So, you know, to create that precise plan, I don't think we received any grants. We just paid for it out of our own general fund. It's about $250,000, right? And you know, that would have been really helpful to have received, you know, some assistance for that. You know, our council has been very supportive of creating affordable housing within this area here. It's transit oriented and it's connected to amenities and, you know, City Hall, and so it's a great project. You know, it would be nice. Maybe you know, we didn't receive the funds this time. Maybe we could might be still some opportunities, but just for helping other cities, precise plans are so important to really putting that stake in the ground and saying, okay, we're committed. So
that's definitely something we can take back to the initiative and to the county to consider what our options are around that.
Yeah, and I attended a breakfast about a month or two ago for mayors and city managers that you put on, and I remember you were asking for cities to express an interest in if they had any potential housing projects, or you said that you may be able to help with public outreach on specific projects. So can you talk more about that, as well as I think you said another opportunity for cities to participate would be in some sort of communication circles. I forget what you called them.
The Learning Network.
The Learning Network. Right.
So this summer we are launching our community engagement pilot project. For interested cities, we are looking to be able to provide funding for jurisdictions who want to do some creative community engagement with their jurisdictions around housing. It could be anywhere from community meetings to maybe neighborhood coffees to taste and talks, where you bring in an expert or a specialist to sort of talk about a certain issue, maybe at a local restaurant, or could be online surveys. Sort of really a wide range of options. Really trying to think beyond just the traditional engagement, which is typically you either have a development project or you have plans and you hold public hearings, and that's how you get the input. We want to do sort of input in a broader way and get as many voices engaged as possible. We will be sending out the applications next week. The deadline for interested cities is to apply would be around the end of August, and we're hoping to kick off these projects in September for a full year. For jurisdictions that maybe don't have a project that they feel would be ready to go to apply for the pilot project, we are doing a learning network for elected officials and city staff, where we hope to gather everybody every other month to sort of talk about tools around community engagement, resources that are available, talk about messaging and framework, sort of how to frame talking about housing, as well as providing expertise on certain topics or issues that we're going to ask the Learning Network to identify. It could be around funding, could be around mobility, could be around creative land use design, could be around creative partnerships to get housing developed. And then we are also asking those pilot projects to report out on sort of lessons learned, what's working, what isn't working. And then at the end of that year, they'll do a full presentation about their project and what they saw. And then for us, it would be ways in which we could develop a toolkit, maybe leverage some of our resources to expand some resources and tools for jurisdictions throughout the community.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any other questions from the council? So my colleague Cliff had mentioned that the resolution, how do we get that process started?
If you're interested, I can send over the template for the resolution.
Okay.
We've had jurisdictions sort of identify some housing priorities that they're working on in that resolution, and Brisbane would be more than happy to do that for your own resolution. And then if you wanted to have it come up at a future meeting, we would be happy to have your support and have you sort of sign on to the initiative. So.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
Thank
it'd be
you.
nice to get it on the next agenda.
Yeah, I would be interested in that as well. And I know we've had staff connect with your office about the Learning Network.
Yes. Yeah, and we will send out information to the elected officials around that too.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a nice evening.
Thank you.
Item B under presentations is a presentation of live local mobile app by founder Craig Suhishi, also a Brisbane resident. Welcome.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council members. Really quickly, I'll just give an introduction to Craig Suhishi. He approached the city about the possibility of partnering with the city in getting the residents and the visitors better engaged with what's happening in the city. Naturally, I was interested in learning more about this. I met with Craig and invited him next to an economic development subcommittee where he gave a presentation there. And it was well received. So since that meeting, I added Craig to our weekly website distribution email list. And so he's been adding content onto the app that he'll show you from that email that he's been getting each week. And I've also been sharing with him the most visited pages on our website. The top one you may or may not have known is the community pool page. So he's added in the pertinent information that people are probably most wanting to see, such as pool hours or hours for lap swim or something. So with that, I'll just hand it over to Craig and he'll walk you through the different pages of his app. Thank you.
So thank you so much for the opportunity to present here. I appreciate it. I know we're tight on time, so I'll just jump right in. So Live Local. So what is it? It's a mobile guidebook, messaging, and local content app. Initially, it was for vacation rentals, but we quickly went upstream to hotels, and that continues to be one of our main areas of focus. We started looking at other markets to see where we can expand, and local government agencies were a place where we saw that they could definitely benefit from the app in terms of engagement of the residents with city information or city processes. So the app, it's a native iOS and Android app. People can download it instantly from either of those two respective app stores immediately once they get access to a specific property. They're automatically signed in. So once people log in, set up an account and log in, they'll come out to this main menu page and they'll log into the properties. and then they'll instantly see Brisbane as one of the properties that they have access to. So once they go into Brisbane, you'll see that what we did here is add a handful of phone numbers that residents could quickly call should they have the need. They just tap on the number and they could dial it directly out. There's other links here that we added, the City Council and Brisbane newsletter for people to instantly access those as well. But we could obviously add additional links or additional content as well, should we see fit. For instance, if people need to want to see the contact someone within a specific department, they could click on the link, figure out who they're trying to contact, and they could gather that information and start the conversation right there. On the messaging app, on the messaging piece app, as a resident, if I'm driving down and I see, say, a downed tree or a large pothole, I could pull the app out, take a picture, and send it through the message. Now, I know you have another solution already online, but this can help supplement that as well. Residents cannot message each other. However, as a city, you can actually message everyone who's live on the app. So, for instance, if you have an election that's coming up and you want to remind people of this election, you could send out a mass message through the app to let people know that the election is coming up. On the local tab, we have 3 sub-tabs. So you have the City of Brisbane, Insights, and Insider. On the Brisbane tab, we have the city, some of the city services. So you have the Mission Blue Center, the pool, the marina, as well as the library. And as a resident, if I want to look at the pool, I could just tap on that. It gives me additional information, the address, a little description of the pool. And here I added the recreational swim hours, but if people wanted additional information on what other activities are happening there, they could just tap on a link and they'll instantly get into, can figure out what else is going on at the pool. On the Insights page, this is a list of Brisbane restaurants. We could also add hiking trails, dog parks, just so residents understand that there are other activities that they could take advantage of directly in Brisbane itself. So similar to the city page, if you tap on one of the restaurants in this instance, it takes you into a detailed page of that specific restaurant, the address, description, and the hours, as well as the website. On the Insider page, we have 3 different categories: the blog, events, and meetings. We could obviously expand this or contract it as we see fit. But if you tap on the blog, this gives you some content that residents can read at their leisure. If you tap on the events page, you'll see the events of the week that occurred. So you have the office hours, concert in the park, as well as the yard sale. Again, if you tap on one of these events, it takes you into a detailed page that provides more information on that specific event. On the meetings page, it's similar. All the meetings that are upcoming for the week are listed here. And if you, again, want to tap into one of these items or get more information, you tap into it, you get the address of where that meeting is going to take place, the time and the location, and if you need additional information, you could tap on the website to get additional information. So this is kind of the overview of the app. We think that providing the city information along with the messaging and the local content and combine that together, you're going to get a greater level of engagement. And our goal is to help cities engage their residents at a greater level so they spend more time and are more active in the community, and ultimately creating a stronger, just a stronger fabric of a community. So I thank you for your time, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you, Craig. Any questions?
I think that was pretty cool. I just have a quick question for Caroline. So Caroline, so do we have anything in the city that's like this?
An app? No.
Because I thought this was really cool. I mean, I'm not someone who uses apps very much. I think guess I'm kind of dating myself. Well, there's a lot of people my age that use apps all the time. I'm not one to use it, but
You use
this
Yelp
could,
and
yeah, no, I mean,
just like
I mean, I do. I use
Yeah.
Waze and a couple other
Yeah.
ones, but this, I could use something like this, and I could see a lot of people using this, and it was very easy, and you've shown how we're all connected, and it's easy to use, and I thought it was a great presentation. Thank you, Craig, for putting that together.
Thank you, Craig. Yeah, the one you were referring to was the Go request for Public Works, but it's nice to be able to tie into something like that that goes directly to Public Works,
Yeah, and it's also got all the other things, too,
Yeah.
right? Where the Public Works one is just for that, where this you just need one, and then you could do all those things.
So is there a cost to the app?
There is no cost for the app at this point.
Oh,
And
okay.
there won't be a cost for early adopters, so it's free in perpetuity.
How do you
We'd be
guys
the
get your
first
money?
city, correct?
You would be the first city, that's correct.
There you go.
So the app, I see that there's advertisers at the bottom, get there with Uber or get there with Lyft. Is that and do people pay to be put in content such as the businesses that are listed in this directory? Is that where the funding comes from?
So the connection to Uber and Lyft is just it's a convenience factor. So if you have Uber or Lyft on your phone and you need to get to one of these locations, you just tap it. It'll pull up the app, and then it automatically has a destination. It knows where you are, so it'll send a car to come pick you up. So it's a convenience factor. It's that they're not advertising to be on here.
Okay, and the businesses that would be in there would be paid advertisers for the restaurants or the...
No, it would be a list of Brisbane restaurants. So for local agencies or local governments, what we want to do is provide the ability for residents to get a greater knowledge of restaurants or parks or other activities that are occurring within their community. So they do not need to pay.
And it could also be used by employees who don't live here but work here, so,
Correct.
or people who are staying at a hotel.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. And then as you well, this is going off the grid a little bit, but as you travel to, say, San Francisco and you open the app to maybe you want to message the city of Brisbane, you'll also get recommendations from our San Francisco list. So as you travel through other cities that we are in and we support, you'll also get those recommendations as well.
Great, thank you.
So what do we need to do, Caroline, to have this be kind of part of Brisbane?
Well, we were saying that everyone who is on the current list for the weekly website updates, we would put a post on there in the coming weeks to say this is a new partnership with Live Local. It's a free app to download. You'll have all the information that's available on the website, but available more easily in this app for you to access. And let people know that as a subscriber, a current subscriber on that list, you'll have complete access to that information because it's not really pertinent for anyone outside of the city. Mm-hmm. It's supposed to be used for Brisbane residents and visitors only. So we'll have that just to send out, and so people will know about Live Local. And if they don't care to use the app, then they don't have to download it. But we'll have instructions on how to download the app, and you just have to enter your email address that you receive the website updates on, and then you'll be able to enter that into the app and then access everything that Craig showed you.
So the business model is for data tracking on your end?
Yeah, that's what I was.
Or are you just doing this for the goodness of your heart to keep all of us informed?
Goodness of my heart, of course. But no, even
It's secondarily.
What do you do with the data?
so we don't. We're not going to sell the data or anything like that. The business model is, so as I mentioned before, we're going after hotels. So they're going to pay $1 per room per month. They're also going to pay for sponsored
Content.
properties. And then there's also going to be inline sponsored restaurants and advertising. But that won't show up on the city page, at least not in Brisbane. Maybe for future cities that do come on board, there will be advertising and sponsored revenue that way.
But right now, you're just trying to get some cities to say, we want Live Local.
Correct. So initially, right, like I mentioned we were going after VRs, vacation rentals, and then we went to hotels. So we were going after travelers initially, right? But we figured let's go after some of the residents who obviously travel. And then once we hook them on using the app in their residence, once they travel somewhere, they will use the app as well. And then that will help the virality of the app.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, cool. Yeah, I think it's awesome.
Okay.
Very good.
Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Greg.
Thank you.
Item C, receive information on Friendship City from Victor Wang from China Silicon Valley. Welcome, Victor.
Good evening, Mayor, Westmere Council members. Thank you for the opportunity. Today I'm going to provide information on Friendship City for the city of Brisbane. So first, I would like to introduce China Silicon Valley. My name is Victor Wang. I'm the founder and chairman of China Silicon Valley, which is a non-profit organization established in 2012. The organization, that is the website. So our mission is to facilitate the business and investment opportunities in the cities in Silicon Valley and in fast-growing cities in China. So in the past years, we have organized 6 trips to China for 50 plus elected officials and 100 plus business leaders from Silicon Valley cities to China. And those China trips triggered multiple returning visits from China back to the cities in Silicon Valley in average once a month. So in late August next month, we're going to receive a delegation from a city called Guangzhou, which is the 3rd largest city in China. So with a council member, a select council member of Guangzhou City and the district commander in the Guangzhou, and also with other elected officials. So I'd like to introduce a little bit more about this opportunity. So first is an introduction about Guangzhou and the Panyu district. So Guangzhou is the 3rd largest city in China with over 14 million population, and this specific district is called the Panyu district, has about 1 million population. And this is a place that is a major base of biomedicine companies in China. And it has the largest one called Guangzhou Pharmaceutical Groups, that is the largest biomedicine company in China. And also, in Panyu district, it has a university town established 12 years ago. Now it has 12 universities with over 200,000 students and faculties altogether for this university town. So and then I would like to introduce a little bit about this delegation members. So there are 7 members headed by Mr. Lu. He's like a council member of the whole city, and also Mr. Chen, the district commander of this Panyu district. So they are here to try to proceed the Friendship City relationship with the city of Brisbane. And there's a MOU
the Memorandum of Friendship City Relationship between the Panyu District of Guangzhou and the City of Brisbane there. So I don't want to read this MOU and the other material already give to the council members, but I'd like you to consider this friendship opportunity and the MOU with this delegation. And thank you for your attention, and please let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you, Victor.
I do have a question.
Oh, sure, go ahead.
So, Victor, so in the Silicon Valley area, how many sister or how many friendship city relationships are there with Chinese cities? I mean, if you could mention some of the Silicon Valley cities that do have these friendship relationships.
There are over 10 cities, like Milpitas, Cupertino, Richmond, and others.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. And also, Victor didn't mention, but earlier this summer, I think it was in June, through China Silicon Valley, we received a delegation from Chengdu, from the Wenzhong district, and we took them on a tour of our biopharmaceutical companies. They met with the president of Cutera, a laser medical company, as well as Ultragenics out at Sierra Point. And following that visit, Victor's been working closely with the representatives from those Brisbane companies to help connect them with Chinese counterparts, because both of those local companies have expressed an interest in expanding their business to the Chinese market. So we're already starting to see some benefits from his efforts, from his organization's efforts to benefit our local business base here. So we appreciate that.
Thank you, Mayor. That's another example that the China Silicon Valley did for the city of Brisbane. So in June, we received the delegation, and then I had follow-up meetings with the president of Cutera and the senior manager of Ultragenics, and to help them to expand their market into China. And also, the Chinese delegations were impressed by the company portfolio we have here in the city of Brisbane, and they said they are going to inform more companies to come over to visit us, because there are many more companies there. They want to expand their market into the U.S., especially in Silicon Valley cities.
All right, great. Now, thank you, Victor.
Thanks, Victor.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Well, I have a question for staff.
Sure.
So, so Clay, Victor's got this template thing here for being a friendship city. I don't know if we would use this exact one, but if the council was interested in establishing some friendship relationships, not just with cities in China, but other places around the world, what kind of steps would we take?
I would imagine it'd be fairly straightforward. It would just be on a city council agenda as a resolution.
To have a template of a resolution of sister city or friendship city.
Yeah.
And my understanding is, maybe Victor can talk about the difference between the two, but I understand friendship cities are a little more like, that's like the first step, and then sister city is a more definite relationship between the two cities. But my understanding is there's no limit. It's not, once you become friendship or sister cities with one city in that country, it doesn't, limit you from having that sort of, relationship and communication with other cities in that same country or in other countries. So I would be in support of, agendizing that in the future to have a template of a relationship, of an MOU, and especially since we have this upcoming opportunity in the end of August, if there's any way we could, have that come before us before that visit, I think that would be really great.
Yeah, you don't, as you know, have any regular council meetings scheduled, but if it was the desire of the council, we could put it on the front end of one of the Baylands meetings on the 7th or the 17th.
That would be fine.
I don't have any problem with that.
Okay.
Council's pleasure.
I don't know.
I think we'll have plenty of opportunities and should not try to squeeze it in during our regular business times. Personally, I wouldn't want to try to make it a special meeting for people.
Okay, we can do that as well. I mean, we can have a visit, from the city, without having an MOU in place. It can be something to consider in the future as well. So is there any step that we would need to take? I can't remember what we did the last time when we received the delegation. Do we need to have a conversation at the council level, or does that just proceed through economic development?
Well, I mean, I think you could do it either way. I think the last time it was, somewhat last minute, so I think we worked it through the economic development director, help organize it, and I know you attended. I also went on the tour. So it's whatever pleasure the council has.
Okay. Well, given that we don't have any regular council meetings between now and the time of the visit, I suggest that we do the same as last time. And, any council members are welcome to attend.
Yeah, I think that's
So, I'd suggest that Victor work with staff on arranging that and let us know what the dates are. And we appreciate all of the materials. Yeah. Great. Thank you. Okay. So moving on to the consent calendar, we have items A through I. Is there a motion?
I approve the consent calendar A through I.
I'd like to pull item I, please.
Okay. Anything else?
I'll approve items A through H then.
Okay.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Approved. And moving on to item I, authorize the city manager to execute a consultant agreement with Dr. G. Fred Lee to provide remediation-related technical services as outlined in the draft scope of work.
I would just defer any questions from Councilmember Davis.
Yeah. So thank you so much, staff, for bringing this forward. I know this is one of the things that I'm really wanting to see happen. So I'm very thankful that this is underway. Under kind of the scope of work that we can expect from Dr. Lee, it's a little broad. So there are really some specific questions that I have that I would like Dr. Lee's opinion on. So if the council doesn't mind, I'd like to just kind of state some of those things that I'd like for Dr. Lee to go over, even though they may be covered in the scope here. I just want it to be very clear that these are things that I hope that he can give his opinion on. So those things would be liquefaction, since, I've been very vocal about wanting clarity on that information since we've had some conflicting information come forward to us. It'd be really helpful for me to get Dr. Lee's opinion on liquefaction as it pertains to the site, how sea level rise would impact the site, if there were housing or other development. And then I'd really like to get Dr. Lee's opinion on whether he perceives housing to be safe on that land. And then finally, I want him to kind of discuss if the dirt piles stay where they are, building on top of those, how would that look like, and if that how those dirt piles would kind of affect that development. So
I think that's all fine. I don't know that Dr. Lee his specialty is hazardous remediation and hazardous materials, things like developing on top of the dirt pile. I don't know that he'll I mean, we'll certainly ask him if he's qualified to offer an opinion about that, but that's not what we anticipate the kind of scope of services he can provide.
Right, and that's more, that's kind of secondary. I mean, obviously, I've stated before, some of my major concerns are, surrounding liquefaction and, whether the site is safe for housing. And so that's really the main things that I want to get clarity on.
Thank you.
That's it.
Anything else on this item?
No, I'm glad he's going to be part of the team. So I'll make a motion to approve item I.
Is there a sec-
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Aye for aye.
Aye.
So now we're going to move on to the item that was moved up, the dog park, which was item E under new business. Consider approval of funding for dog park resurfacing. Staff report, please.
Good evening, Council. I'm Jeff Franco, Recreation Coordinator for the city. For this staff report for the resurfacing of the dog park, the purpose is to encourage the community interactions at the dog park by maintaining the natural turf year-round. I would like you guys to review the proposal that Park and Rec Commission supplied for the dog park and consider inclusion of the project as either part of the next capital improvement process or to use a supplemental appropriation to fund the project sooner. And I'll get into those two options in a minute. So the background is, right now, if the dog park, most of the grass has died due to the drought and the drought restrictions on watering it. So we met with, on March 30th, Park and Rec Commission as well as City Public Works met with dog park visitors to go over different options for how to move forward. And that was, did you guys get this sheet with the different options? We talked about different options being reseeding the current grass, resodding, adding artificial turf, or making it hardscape like with DG. What was talked about at that meeting, the majority of the dog park users expressed that they support natural resurfacing over artificial surfacing or hardscape. And after weighing the pros and cons for each option, the commission agreed that the proposal would best suit the needs of dog park users. So what it shows, it's on the chart that you guys have as well, the diagram. In yellow, the proposed would be where the resodding would be, and then in the pink would be extending the current DG, the decomposed granite, and in between the two, we would have a fence installed there with a gate. So when the resodding takes place or maintenance needs to be done, we can have part of the dog park still open, as well as potentially having a small dog park area and a large dog park area to have sectioned off. So we've gotten quotes for the resodding and adding the fence and then extending the DG, and the quotes come about to $30,000. So the two options on the second page of the staff report, one would be to wait until the city council reviews it as a capital improvement project, and it would be brought back in October. If this is the case, the dog park would not be improved until after the rainy season, and there could be a potentially another year with little grass and extending the muddiness. The other option would be to approve a supplemental appropriation from the general fund, and then that will allow the staff to begin the process of improving the park prior to the rainy season, and then it would give the resodding a chance to grow and the grass to take before the mud happens. So once again, the cost of the project is approximately $30,000. Thank you.
Thank you. Any
You guys have
questions?
Any questions?
No, I just have comments.
Okay.
I do, Madam Mayor. So, nice presentation, Joe.
Thank you.
So, I have a dog. We don't go to too many dog parks, but the ones that we have gone to, I've noticed that there isn't any grass. It's just a big dirt area. I've been in the one off the Centennial Pathway in South City. As far as I know, it doesn't have any grass. And there's one in Golden Gate Park and one up in Joaquin Miller in the Oakland Hills. Just a big dirt area. So, we've been in a drought. Now I guess we're not in a drought anymore, but we could be in another one. How important it is to the dogs. I mean, really, it's the dog's enjoyment of a dog park. Does it have to be grass, or can it just be dirt?
From talking with the loyal dog park goers, they really stressed the real grass, stating that the dogs appeared to be having more fun and having more enjoyable interactions on the grass versus the hardscape, where, especially when it's warmer or the sun is out, to be running and like rolling around on the grass was more preferred than the hardscape, because we do have a section of DG at the dog park currently, and the dogs tend to recreate on the grass.
Yeah, I was in Golden Gate Park with my dog a couple nights ago, and we weren't at the dog park. We were in an open area, and it was grassy, and yeah, he liked it, and he rolled around and doing his thing. I can see where dogs would like that more so. I'm just thinking of the maintenance. So is this part of your budget, maintaining the sod, like cutting it and I know you had some, in case, there's another drought again or whatever, and, we might have to let the sod die back, and then...
That question might be better handled by Public Works, as how they do the maintenance for the dog park.
Okay, sure.
So the dog park is included in 12 sites that we have routine maintenance for, and we do have a small line item for doing additional work like reseeding and aerating and fertilizing. So it's not a huge cost, and we do have it budgeted to maintain grass.
Okay.
The other challenge is if you don't use grass there's 3 other places in town that dogs potentially can use for grass, which is the community park and the 2 schools.
Yeah.
But they can't be off-leash, can they?
Oh, but they are.
There are more places than that, but
those are the
Yes.
3 that are mostly used by.
Yeah.
And having dogs be on the school grounds. Although I know there's a number of people who do that, that's also heavily used by children. So having children playing on the same place where the dogs are using it for their enjoyment is not the best situation. So having a dog park that has the type of turf that the dog park users would like to be at has an advantage. I mean, it is more expensive than having it just be hardscape, but it also, if you can attract the dogs to be there versus at other places in town where we may not want them as much, because you have more interactions with the children.
Yeah, no, I agree. And then, so we had grass there originally, so the reason why it looks like it does today is because of the drought and not maintaining it?
Yes.
So that's what caused it to be like that. Okay, so we're trying to, now that we are out of the drought or whatever, rethinking of going back to the grass, the original plan that was proposed for
correct.
the park. Okay.
I have one question, if I may, for Public Works. I don't see anything in this for any sprinkler system. Is the area currently sprinklered, or how is?
Yeah, it's got an irrigation system, yes.
Okay. I know that from my interactions at the dog park, the people who use the dog park have done most of the maintenance and improvements, if not darn near all of them, except for the mowing, but, so I just wasn't sure if the sprinkler system was still intact.
Okay, any other questions?
All right. I'm going to try this later on in the agenda. We got some bond issues that looking at saving us $33,000 a year, and if this is $30,000 a year, I'd like to make a motion to just do a supplemental appropriation and spend next year's savings this year.
Second.
A second.
Do we want to have public
Yeah, is there anyone
comment?
from the public who'd like to speak? Any various?
All right.
Come on up. Thank you.
It's not that tense, is it? By the way, council members, most of you don't hear yourselves. You don't come through very loudly on these mics unless you're bent over real close to them. And I think it's time for you to think about an appropriation to get new mics, maybe even wireless ones, so when you turn your head to speak to each other, you can still be heard by the audience. Just a thought. On this dog park thing, we know that I don't know the number of people that use the dog park. Do you? Do any of you?
I don't think we have a little tally thing, so no.
Well, it really wouldn't be a bad idea to have an idea before you spend $30,000 how many people are going to enjoy it. We know that the people that use it love it, and they're passionate about it. Like Councilmember Terry said, they've done a lot of work out there. So I support that, and I support us having the dog park. I just think that you should know these numbers, and you should be thinking about it and asking, why do we have to spend $30,000 just to lay down some sod when the irrigation system's already in there, according to the lady who spoke from Public Works? $30,000, that's a lot. And a fence, I think there's enough people here in Brisbane that could figure out how to build a fence as volunteers if we had the city just buy the materials for us. And so that bothers me, the $30,000. That bothers me. It doesn't bother me what Clark said about using an appropriation where we're saving some money and applying to this. That's fine. But I just think you should review what it takes to accomplish the task. Another thing is, like Councilmember Lentz said, he's got a dog. He frequents other places where they don't have grass. It's my impression that dogs go where their masters tell them to go. They love to roll in grass and whatnot. They don't care what's been there before they rolled in it. That's up to you to decide how to deal with. That's why I don't take our dogs there, because I don't want to have to give them a bath every time they may get into something I don't want to bring home. So I keep my dogs on a leash and I take them where I want to go. When we go into San Francisco, there are plenty of parks up there that are not necessarily designated as dog parks, but they are used that way quite a bit, and they don't have turf. And of course, the other thing that you know is that it's a lot easier to pick up your dog's leavings when it's not in the grass. That gets quite messy. We do it anyway, but thank you for your consideration.
I'd like to, even though it sounds like the council's ready to vote, I would like to just say a couple of things about this, if you don't mind.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, so I'm really excited that this is coming forward. I actually spoke with Clay and Randy about this a few months back, and this was something that I actually heard a lot when I was going door to door and campaigning. This is something that people really wanted to see accomplished, and you know, was aside from being worried about airplane noise and the Baylands, like this is really something that tangibly we can find a solution that's fairly quick. And so I think it's really important to deliver that to our citizens. There's something that's not being talked about here that I think is worth mentioning. It's not just about a place for your dog to go to the bathroom and, you know, socialize. Really, this is very critical for people that have hyperactive dogs, which I happen to be one of those people. So my dog needs like 20 to 30 minutes of fetching a day to not harass us for the rest of the day. And that just lasts us maybe like 6 hours. So for people, this is really important. And the problem at the dog park right now is that because it's so muddy, we can't take our dog there. And so I imagine there are a lot of people that don't use that that don't use the dog park because of the condition that it is in. So yeah, if you went right now and you took a poll of how many people come there on a regular basis, it may not be a ton, but I think that those numbers would be greater if the park was in good condition. So the problem with the dog park right now is that it's so muddy that if you have a dog that does fetch, by the time you're done, your dog has dirt all in their mouth, and it is very uncomfortable. It's not just, oh, let's have grass, so they have a a substance that they prefer. It's really to help protect the dog. Also, the dog gets muddy too, so if you're trying to bring your dog in your car, that presents an issue, not just having a ton of dirt in your dog's mouth. And then also the soil is very uneven. So I've seen times when there have been fights between dogs and people need to interject. Well, it's very easy to have somebody actually trip because it's so uneven with the way that the soil is now. So it's really important for us to fix this because there are issues for people, there are safety issues for dogs. It's imperative that we fix it. I'd like to see that. It's controversial to figure out how to maintain resources like this when you are in a drought, but it's unfortunate that we didn't water it, and now we are having to spend $30,000 to repair it. So I'd like to have some sort of plan in place where we don't let our resources completely fall apart so that we have to basically, build the infrastructure back in again. So I think that could save us some money in the long run if we prioritize our dog park. And I would like to see the council, it sounds like, Clark's ready to move forward, but I think it's really important that we do this now. We've had a lot of community involvement from the people that use the dog park, and I think they'd be really happy to see this happen now and not a year from now. So
those are good points. And so I'm curious, is it muddy now? I don't understand. If it hasn't rained in a while, what's causing that?
Well, it's just like it's not necessarily that it's muddy, but there's a lot of dirt. So when you throw the ball, it's full of saliva, right? So then when the dog continues, it touches the ground and then it's in your dog's mouth, then there's, it gets muddy. And then there are some patches that are in the shade. Oftentimes they do become a little bit muddy. So...
Then it comes over and licks you.
Right.
Glad I don't have a dog. Is there anyone else who'd like to give public comment aside from Tony Varios?
So.
No. Oh, wait, Kevin Fryer. And then the gentleman here.
Ted.
Yeah, I'm Kevin Fryer, and I'm chair of Parks and Rec, and this came to us, and this recommendation comes from us. And I would like to build on or echo some of the things that Madison said. It is true, the information that we got is that the usage of the dog park has gone way down precisely because it's not a conducive place for dogs. And there was also one other thing that came, and Ted's here, I don't know if he wants to speak to that, but because there is no grass, there's glass that is coming up. Out of the ground. So now there's also potentially a hazard. And, we just declared this Parks and Rec month. This is actually the very kind of thing that improves the quality of life in Brisbane. So I think if it's possible to do it, I think absolutely we should. So I just wanted to add that to the conversation.
Yeah, it's more than just a dog thing. It's a human socializing.
Right. I'm sorry. We have a couple other people.
Just in a matter of time, if we could just maybe.
Sure. Limit comments, please.
I was just going to sit and be quiet, but obviously. The glass thing is just because of the debris that's been thrown in that site. It used to be the unloading rail cars. Mm-hmm. You can still see the railroad tracks. There's still railroad ties buried underneath. Mm-hmm. So, that's the main thing. And it is true, the usage has gone down. I go there every day from an hour to 2 hours a day. So the usage has gone down because of the dust and the dirt and the mud when it rains. And literally when the wind picks up, you'll be there with your dog and you have to do this because of the dust coming through from the dirt. It's like moon dust out there in places. So, a lot of people are very anxious to see sod back again, and The dogs do like it more, and we like it more too. It's a much more comfortable environment. It's not hot. It just makes a nice place for people to go down and exercise their dogs instead of going to the community park. The dogs like the community park better, I admit, but I think the dog park would work better for them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Karen Cunningham?
Madam Mayor, City Council, Karen Cunningham. I just want to remind everybody that the dog park's not just for dogs. This was part of all the placemaking stuff that went down. I mean, I used to go down to the dog park all the time with friends who had dogs and just sit and hang out, and Ted and crew made it such a comfortable place to be. This was part of that whole placemaking, make a nice place and people will go. Well, it's not nice and I'm not going. So if we make it nice, you'll probably get a lot more people coming back as well. Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you.
Karen. You know, I have a question for Karen. So Karen, I don't know if you have those numbers in front of you, but how much of the 30,000 is the sod, and because we have these other expenses too, like fence and putting down the compressed granite, or roughly a percentage?
The sod was 15 to 20. I think the fence was about 3 to 4, and so the DG was the rest of it.
Okay.
I believe.
All right, good.
I'd just like to make a comment that just like a lot of people like a nice playground for their children, even though they're not using it, their children are. And to many of us, the dogs are our children and are the people or the animals that we're out there integrating with and want them to have a good experience. So I think it's really important to have a quality dog park, and I recommend this wholeheartedly.
Okay.
All right.
Oh, do we have one more public comment? Okay, thank you.
All right, I make a motion to close public hearing.
There's no public hearing.
It's not a public hearing, actually.
If it could be brief, please.
I want to thank Councilmember Davis for bringing up all the clarification points, because that's why I made the objection primarily, because those things are talked about in committee or subcommittee or at the Park and Rec, but they're not talked about here. So most people don't have a clue why we're going to spend $30,000. I still don't like the number, but I have no objection to doing it specifically because of what Madison brought up. All those points were super good and clear, and I think you guys really need to pay attention to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Call the question.
You're right, Clark. It
Okay.
isn't a public hearing. We moved it up.
Call the question. I made a
Okay.
motion, you seconded, so.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, excellent.
Now on to public hearing.
Care of the dog
Okay.
business. Yeah.
Okay, yes. Public hearing, item A. Consider adoption of resolution number 2017-34, imposing charges for funding the local Brisbane stormwater program, authorizing placement of said charges on the 2017-18 county tax roll, and authorizing the county tax collector to collect such charges. Staff report.
Mayor, members of the council, I'm going to be brief because I prepare this fee assessment, engineer's report and agenda report, but the Public Works Director runs the program. So we are keeping the fees the same that we charge every property for NPDS and the programs that we do and maintain every year. We collect, at this fee amount, we collect $54,000, and the program at this time is running at around $600,000. We've been waiting for the county, talking about increasing the fees, and that's still in the process, so we're looking at it, and we'd like you to think about it, but we want to see what the county does first before we recommend trying to bring forward a vote to raise the fees. So with that, I can answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions?
I do, Madam Mayor.
Okay.
So Karen, yeah, you said that CCAG is, they've been like
for years
wanting, right? This is before I think even Clark was on CCAG. So okay, so hopefully we'll get there soon. What have other cities in the county? Have any of them tried to pass the costs on to the businesses and the residents?
Not that I know of, but again, I'm
Yeah, I know, okay.
Now, I can't answer that question, but there is state legislation that's going through that will allow cities to attach a fee through your, what would be our water and sewer bill. So that's something that we may look at down the line.
Okay.
I believe Burlingame has a fee attached, a parcel fee that goes to their stormwater prevention, because they were asking about if the county was to do something, would they be able to opt out because they're already charging a fee? So I think it has been done, but it's much more difficult, and they've been for years been waiting for the right moment to have an open spot on the agenda. Right. And how much money could we really charge before people are going to say no?
Yeah, no, you're right. And there was, I think, some city down in Southern California that was an example, and they passed it.
Yeah.
And, yeah. Oh, well.
Questions?
So, this actually is a question to Stuart. I want to see if he's paying attention here. So, sorry.
Yes, I am.
So, on Exhibit A of the engineer's report, it says we have 1,445 R1 and R2 residential units, right? And that includes the Northeast Ridge, right?
Yes.
Okay. And it says we have 31 R3 units, which is multi-units, right? How many units are within those 31 R3 units total?
I couldn't tell you, but if you give me till tomorrow where I can look up, because any apartment that has more than 4 units has a business license.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, that'd be fine. If you could send it to all of us, I'd like to know. But what it sounds like is probably an average is probably 10 units, so it'd be like 300 to 350. I guess my point is that we have less than 2,000 residential units, maybe 1,800 in Brisbane.
We send out about 2,000 utility bills, and about 300 of them are for commercial.
Okay. Yeah, I'd like to know that number, because
I'll work with the planning department as well. They may also have more information as well.
It's not really pertinent to this, but just like to know that number.
I was paying attention. I just didn't know the answer.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's fair. You can give it to.
I was wondering if you're going to address that.
Yeah. You didn't answer it.
I'm really surprised you didn't know the answer. Stuart got him.
Does that mean I should go home now?
Yeah, you can send it to us via email if you don't mind. Okay, that's all the questions.
Madison, any questions?
No.
Okay. So
open the public hearing.
Now we'll open the public hearing. Is there anyone in the public who'd like to comment on this item?
Motion to close public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion to approve Resolution 2017-34, imposing charges for funding of the local Brisbane stormwater program, authorizing placement of said charges on 2017-18 county tax roll, and authorizing the county tax collector to collect such tax charges.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Approved. Very good. Moving on to item B, consider adoption of resolution number 2017-35, overruling protests and ordering the improvements and confirming the diagram and assessment for fiscal year 2017 through 18 for the Sierra Point Landscaping and Lighting District. Staff report, please.
Honorable Mayor, members of the council, this program I do manage, so hopefully I can answer questions if you have any. This is the annually occurring process to assess the property owners on Sierra Point to maintain the augmented lighting, landscaping, and the pathways and the green belt along them. This fee hasn't changed from the prior year. Our expenses were down a little bit because of the drought restrictions, but we did spend money complementary to that doing deep root watering of some of the palm trees and the other trees out at Sierra Point. It says fertilizing. That was a a mistake. We meant to say deep root watering. And we've pruned the stone pines. We've done some special projects in between. So this fee stays the same as it has last year. We did pass a vote to increase it if the costs do increase, but they've held steady this past year. So I can answer any questions. There's a public hearing process that begins with the mayor reading a statement, and then the city clerk reads a statement if we're ready for that.
Sure. So I'll start off with the statement by the mayor. So Sierra Point Landscaping and Lighting District. This is the time and place set for hearing on the engineer's report and the levy and collection of the proposed assessment for fiscal year 2017 through 18 for the Sierra Point Landscaping and Lighting District. These proceedings were undertaken pursuant to the Landscaping and Lighting Act of 1972. The engineer's report, prepared by the engineer of work, consists of the proposed improvements, the boundaries of the assessment district and any zone therein, the proposed diagram, the estimate of costs thereof, and the proposed assessments upon accessible lots and parcels of land within the district. Any one of these items may be the subject of protests or endorsements. You are asked to clearly identify yourself and the property owned by you so that your statements may be correctly recorded. The hearing is declared open, and I will ask the city clerk to report on the various notices given in connection with the hearing.
Notices have been mailed and posted as required by the Landscaping and Lighting Act of 1972. Proofs of mailing and posting are on file in my office. A copy of the engineer's report prepared by the engineer of work was filed in my office on May 9th, 2017, and has been open to public inspection since that time.
So at this point, do we open the public hearing?
You declared it open already.
Okay, so it says, item 4 is a hearing of oral testimony and comments. Is there anyone in the public who would like to speak? Tony Varias.
In the report, I didn't hear anything about whether or not there's any consideration for adding more garbage cans, the dog, the stands that distribute dog poop bags and things of that nature, or whether or not any other possible enhancements to what's already there might have been considered, like benches or anything else that would make it nicer. And I know that Councilmember O'Connell is a member out there, I think, at the Yacht Club, and so she might have some comments to add to that, but I'm just wondering whether that's been even considered, because if it is, this would be the time to raise those fees to cover those types of expenses, I would think. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment on this item?
Motion to close public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I do have a question, Madam Mayor.
Okay.
In regards to Karen, and Randy's not here, but maybe someone else could address this. So, we have this assessment district, and it's for landscaping and lighting, but assessment districts can also include infrastructure maintenance and things like that. Not that it would be applied to this, but it's really more like a Baylands question, because one of the things we have been talking about is trying to, not tap into the current general fund revenue and having, say, the Baylands be self-sufficient on its services. So could assessment districts also include roads and maintenance, things like water, sewer?
The answer is yes. As a matter of fact, we have such a district up in the Northeast Ridge, and that was used for streets, water and sewer lines, I believe. I'm not sure if there's anything else in that or not. At least those main kind of public facilities and utilities. So yes, the answer is yes.
Okay, and then and then say, for example, like the Bay Trail. Trails could also be part of that, and how they're kept up, and amenities such as benches and water fountains.
Are you referring to this particular?
No, I'm talking about the Baylands. Not for this one, because this is just for landscape.
I would generally say yes, but I mean, it's, there's probably a prescription in law in terms of what you can put and can't put into these districts. I don't know if the city attorney wants to answer that on the fly or not.
Well, the statute is fairly broad in terms of the kinds of matters that can be covered by the assessment. So it depends somewhat on how broadly, or what kind of improvements are you interested in terms of whether or not the statute would cover that. What do you have some other things in mind besides what's currently out there?
No, I'm not talking about 0 Point. This is really a general question for potential assessment districts with Baylands.
Yeah, and again, there
limited.
In that context, there are a number of public improvements that can be used for that purpose. The issue, though, is that with respect to the money that's raised there, it needs to be used within that particular assessment district. It can't have, because it's presumed that those properties get a special benefit from paying those assessments.
Got it. All right. Thank you, Michael.
Yeah, I just wanted to say in the background that, this district is very specific on what it can do, and it's constructing, installing, maintaining, and servicing the following, and it lists several things that it can be used for, but it can't be used for other purposes, even within that district. So.
Right. Any other comments? Questions? Okay.
So,
do I hear a motion?
I make a motion to move forward with the following procedures and actions that are recommended in the
Adopt Resolution 2017-35.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. That doesn't need to be all read.
We have to go
Does that need to be read out? No? Okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Moving on.
Just the rest of it did.
Item C, consider action regarding issuance and sale of lease revenue bonds. Adopt resolution numbers 2017-37, approving the form and authorizing the execution of certain lease financing documents in connection with the defeasance of the outstanding Brisbane Public Finance Authority lease revenue bonds, 2009 Series A, City Hall renovation completion project, and authorizing and directing certain actions with respect thereto. Do I need to read all of these? Or are we doing one at a time? Is a question for the city attorney, I suppose.
I think you can read them all at one time.
Okay, so I do need to read every, okay.
To be on the safe side, given what we're doing, I'd say yes.
Okay. Adopt resolution number 2017-38, amending certain lease financing documents to provide for the release of a portion of the property securing the Brisbane Public Financing Authority lease revenue refunding bonds, 2009 Series A, and authorizing and directing certain actions relating thereto. Adopt resolution number 2017-39, amending certain lease financing documents to provide for the release of a portion of the property securing the Brisbane Guadalupe Valley Municipal Improvement District Financing Authority lease revenue refunding bonds, 2009 Series A, and authorizing and directing certain actions relating thereto. Adopt resolution.
Before you do that, I think you should convene the meeting of the
GVMDI.
Yeah, I wasn't clear whether we had done that
I
at
think
the
we
very
did both
start.
at the same time. It's
incorporated it all, didn't we?
It's on the top of the agenda. It has both.
Okay, well, just indicate that now
okay.
you're
Then I will.
operating as the authority.
Okay, so we are also convening as the Brisbane Public Financing Authority, Brisbane Guadalupe Valley Municipal Improvement District Public Financing Authority.
Thank you.
Adopt Resolution B, GVMIDFA 2017-01. Resolution approving the form and authorizing the execution of certain lease financing documents in connection with the defeasance of the outstanding Brisbane Public Finance Authority lease revenue bonds, 2009 Series A, City Hall renovation completion project, and authorizing and directing certain actions with respect thereto. Adopt Resolution BGVMIDFA 2017-2, amending certain lease financing documents to provide for the release of a portion of the property securing the Brisbane Guadalupe Valley Municipal Improvement District Financing Authority lease revenue refunding bonds, 2009 Series A, and authorizing and directing certain actions relating thereto. Adopt Resolution BPFA 2017-1, approving the form and authorizing execution of a termination agreement in connection with the defeasance of the outstanding Brisbane Public Financing Authority lease revenue bonds, 2009 Series A, City Hall renovation completion project, improvement, and approving official auctions. Adopt Resolution BPFA 2017-02, amending certain lease financing documents to provide for the release of a portion of the property securing the Brisbane Financing Authority lease revenue refunding bonds, 2009 Series A, and authorizing and directing certain actions relating thereto.
Good job.
You're talked out for the night.
Okay, so staff report, please.
Sure. So what all that does is allow us to refund our 2009 A completion bonds. And as it says in the staff report, we got a very good rate on it. We have a rate of 2.21%. That will save us about $33,000 a year, with a net savings of $210,000 over the remaining 12 years of the bond's life. The lower interest rate saves the city $76,000 more than we had anticipated in May when we brought this to you before. The reason why we need to release a portion of the property from all the other bonds that we have done in the past is because we're going to secure this bond with the fire station. The fire station is part of other projects that we were bonding for, but because the other bonds have been paid down enough, we no longer need the fire station to secure those bonds. So we're going to be able to use the fire station only to secure this bond. And that's why you have to do all the other actions, is so that way the fire station can be the property that we are leasing from the BGVMIDFA. So that was the reason we're doing it all. Clark has already spent the first $30,000 that we have saved in this. So, only 10 more years to go of spending money. Staff would recommend, in fact, that we do use the savings from this on a year-by-year basis for capital projects, since this money was originally set aside for a capital project. And that way it doesn't just become part of the general fund, but it just gets used for other one-time projects. So what Clark was suggesting is exactly what the staff was recommending that we use these savings for.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions?
No.
Yeah, I got just a question for Stuart. That interest rate, 2.21% from Chase Bank.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever seen an interest rate from a bank for a bond that low?
Part of it is that we're not going out for a full 20 years. If I went out for 5 years, it'd be even lower. 2.21 was what it was on the day. It is really good. There's been days that it's been lower. I mean, we're slightly in an uptick in the market. If you caught this during the exact, the very bottom, I'll look to Marty. If it was at the very bottom, yeah,
Oh, geez. Okay.
about 30 basis points lower.
So, I mean, with these rates so low, I mean, I know we
should go out and borrow more money?
Well, we've been aggressive, refinancing.
We have been.
I mean, in the past, and of course, you don't have a crystal ball. You go, oh, hey, this is a great rate. Okay, let's refinance, and we save money, and then it keeps going down.
Right. This is one of the things. So, Marty Johnson is our financial advisor when it comes to bond debt financing. He has been, I've been working with him for over 20 years now on these types of things, maybe 25 years at this point in my career. When we have opportunities to do refinancings that save us 3% of the cost, because, part of it is you don't want to just do it every time you get a 1% savings, because there's a limit to the number of times you can refinance a bond. There's, the federal government doesn't want you to do that a lot, because the more you refinance, the lower they get less taxes they get. So, Marty does keep on top of all the bonds that we do have outstanding and which ones are available for refunding, and we do bring them back to you when we have those opportunities.
Yeah. When for financing of the library, are we going to use any bonds, or okay? So, but we haven't settled on that yet.
No, I mean, we before we would want to go out for a bond, we'd like to know what the overall cost of the project is and exactly what it is, the amount that we would want to borrow. One of the rules of bonds is, they like to know what the project is before they're willing to give you money for it. You also have to use the money within a certain period of time, otherwise you run afoul of federal rules. Because what used to happen years ago is cities would borrow money at tax-free interest rates and then invest it at taxable interest rates, and therefore be able to get additional money and not have to pay any taxes on the additional money. So the federal government has shortened the period of time that you have to spend your money, and then if you do make additional interest above and beyond your tax exempt rate, you get to pay that back to the federal government.
Okay. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you. Any other questions? Gary? No? Madison? Clark?
No.
Okay. Would someone like to make a motion? Or, excuse me,
Public hearing.
first, is there a motion to open the public hearing?
You don't need a motion.
Okay.
Just open it.
Is there anyone in the public who'd like to speak on this item? Okay.
Motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Public hearing's closed.
Okay, we can do all these at once, Michael. Motion to adopt resolution number 2017-37. I'm not going to read it all. Motion to adopt resolution number 2017-38. Motion to adopt resolution number 2017-39. Motion to adopt resolution B-GVMID-FA 2017-01. Motion to adopt resolution B-GVMID-FA 2017-02. Motion to adopt resolution BPFA 2017-01. Motion to adopt resolution BPFA 2017-02.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Madam Mayor, can I request a 5-minute break before we proceed with the schedule?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
5-minute break. Thank you.